Hello, in this video I'm going to talk about a trials build setup for DPS that will easily get you 100,000 DPS without any trials gear, and this is an easy, I'm going to call it a 1 1/5 bar setup because I'm essentially only running 6 skills on this. So on the front bar, I'm going to run Blade Cloak, my Flail, and my Beam. And then on my back bar, I'm going to run my Scholarship, my Mage's Guild, and my two-handed sword. So that's the only skills that I'm going to use. So it's going to be a total of 6 skills. Now, also the ultimate. That goes without saying. You got to use an ultimate. But what I'm going to show you is the build. Let's go over the build first. So this is the Tideborn and Deadly Strike pairing with the Velothi-Ur Amulet. Tideborn is a craftable set. Deadly Strike, it comes from Cyrodiil. If you go to Cyrodiil, and you're going to want to buy the gear set from the Bruma Armory, or the Bruma vendor. Don't buy it at your base because it's going to be more expensive. And that's if you want to buy the set from AP. If you don't want to buy it from AP, you can buy it on Traders. But the gear set is in PvP, Cyrodiil, go down to Deadly Strike. These are in alphabetical order. Deadly Strike is right here. This gives you 15% increased damage to your channeled and damage over time effects. Well, this right here is a channel, and that's why Deadly Strike buffs it. So, Tideborn Wildstalker, the craftable set, has a line of weapon damage, crit chance, offensive pen, and it increases your direct damage done to monsters by 12%. Deadly Strike has a line of two lines of weapon damage with line of crit, and it increases your channeled attacks by 15%. So these two together are going to buff the beam by 27%. And then on top of that, Velothi gives you a 15% increased damage to monsters. So you have the 27 from the two 5-piece sets, adding in the 15% damage from Velothi. Now that is 42% damage buffed beam. And we are also running the Maelstrom Greatsword, which buffs your beam another 12% because it is direct damage. So that's 54% increase to your beam. So this is a really easy setup. All you have to maintain is 3 skills on your back bar, 3 on your front. That's it. So let's get into how this parse works. You are going to run weapon power pots, or if you don't really need to run weapon power pots per se, that's just what I have built. This will give you the Major Prophecy and Savagery buff, and you never have to cast this. And then this will give you your Major Brutality and Sorcery buffs. So if all you have is the standard stamina regen, that's all you need. The main purpose of what we're looking for in a potion is we want to make sure that we are getting the major endurance buff so that your stamina recovery stays as high as possible. So on the back bar, we've gone through the skills you're going to hit on your front bar is your quick cloak, your beam, and your flail. On the back bar, you're only going to manage these 3 here. Your Inspired Scholarship, Fiery Contingency, I'll get to this one in a second, Stampede, and then the Languid Eye is the ultimate that you want to hit. So for the Fiery Contingency, You're going to pick Flame, Lingering Torment, and then you need to add in the Minor Intellect and Endurance script. And this is going to help increase, this is going to stack with your potion. So this gives you Minor Intellect, while the potion gives you Major Intellect. And this will give you 45% increased stamina recovery. And why that's important is running the beam is a big drain on the stamina. So in order to sustain, we need to have a source of minor intellect as well as major. One last thing, the food that we are running on this build is lava foot soup. Very important that you run a food that gives you a high amount of recoveries. If you're not going to run this food, you're going to have trouble, or you're going to need some extra resources from your support. So slottables for this, I'm even going to prove a little bit more of a point. I'm going to keep this slotted, and because of what the dummy gives you in combat, this is essentially a dead slottable for this, because I don't even need the 8% critical damage from this. I could slot this and get a higher parse, but I want to prove how easy this is to get a 100,000, over 100,000 on the dummy without any trials gear. I'm not wearing one piece of trials gear on this build, and I am still going to hit over 100,000. I hear a lot of people talking about they're worried about not hitting good numbers on DPS, or people saying that they need to require 100,000 DPS, and that scares some people off because maybe they don't think they can hit the number, or they are not sure if they can. Also, by the way, Herald of the Tome, Adric Spear, and Assassination are the subclass lines here. This is slotted to give me critical damage. You never have to cast this if you don't want to. It's purely just sitting there to proc the passives. Same with this. This is purely there to proc the passives. And then so is this. This is there to proc the passives on the back bar. As you'll notice, I am not running the Grim Focus skill right now, so that this setup will work in update 47. So keep that in mind. They're making a lot of changes coming up in update 47. This setup will work in update 47. This is not going to get nerfed in update 47. So let's get into it. I'm going to do a parse here, and I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about for what you can get here on a parse. And the main thing, if you're going to parse and try to do this, is you want to make sure that you're hitting your synergy as often as you can, because that's going to really help keep your resources up while you're parsing. When your beam finishes, you want to reapply the stuff that you need to. There's my synergy. I'll be hitting that once my beam is done. You hit the synergy, bar swap, reapply stuff that you need to. Get your 3 cruxes up, and then you beam. You want another important thing here when you're parsing. You want to make sure that you light attack once every 9 seconds at least, so that your ultimate regeneration stays ticking and it doesn't drop off. If you happen to see that your ultimate is not moving during your parse, that means you have neglected to light attack within that window, and it will shut off. So you want to make sure that you are light attacking regularly, otherwise you will have a problem. So here's my synergy coming up again. I'm going to hit that when my beam dies, reapply my stuff, activate my ultimate, bar swap, get my crux up, and beam again. My potion is ready as well, so I'm going to pop my potion when this is done, bar swap, reapply stuff on the back bar, flail a couple of times, light attacking in between, and I'm going to hit my synergy when this beam is done. When your beam is active, what you want to do is you want to keep your eyes moving on your skills and your potions to see what you need to address before you activate your next beam, because your beam is kind of your break time. You go on break a little bit, but it needs to be a productive break. You're not pressing any buttons, but you can still move your eyes around to check and see what you need to do next. So don't completely go to sleep while you're beaming. Make it a productive little breather, and you can keep your damage going really well. So here's my synergy again. I'll hit this when my beam is done. Bar swap and reapply. Hit my ultimate. Now I will say that I am also not God's gift to parsing, so anybody that looks at this and goes, man, I'm not doing very well, yeah, I don't do this on a regular basis. I find parsing very boring, so there are a lot of people out there that are probably going to do much better at this than I am. I much prefer to just go out and play the game. I don't enjoy parsing, and I also don't find much value in it in terms of proving what you can do in content. Yes, it can help you work on a rotation. However, in content, you need to understand that you need to be able to dodge uh, mechanics and everything. Now, I've got 98,000 on that. I will say that I've gotten 103, and I can show you. There's my previous parse right here. So I have gotten 100,000 on this. I didn't quite get that there, but I was talking while I was parsing, so that's a little bit more difficult to do while you're talking. But I'm going to end the video here. I just wanted to make sure that I show that you can get 100,000 on a parse with no trials dummy, or excuse me, trials gear. If you do end up running trials, you can also work on just getting normal gear. Go into Lucent Citadel and get the Slivers of Null Arca set. If you don't have the perfected version, the only thing you're going to miss out on that is a little bit of weapon damage from the perfected version. The regular version will hit just as hard. You might have a slight difference in damage, but it's not going to be big. With the Onsul's Torment set, the only thing you're going to miss out on that is a 3% critical chance. Again, it's going to be a small difference there. Kind Aegis, if you get Yandir's Might, the perfected version of this has weapon damage on it in update 47. So you're only going to miss out on a little bit of a booster on these perfected versions. Don't think it's the end of the world if you don't have Trials gear. You can easily run a parse on this dummy here and get 100,000. I could easily have changed a couple of things on here. I could have slotted Wrathful Strikes over this and probably clipped over 100,000 on that easily, and then I also didn't have a great rotation while I was talking. So, I mean, you can really easily hit over 100,000. In content, it'll be even easier because there are 3 things that are really commonly included in your trials groups now that are not present on the dummy. One of them is one of your tanks is likely going to be wearing Pearlescent Ward, which will give you 180 weapon spell damage. In addition to that, you're likely going to have, not always, but quite often, you will see a Spalder of Ruin in group that is 260 weapon and spell damage, as well as the very common set Powerful Assault. This is also not present on the dummy. So that's a lot of weapon damage there that's not included, as well as some debuff sets that are not present. The Touch of Zen is going to increase group damage by 5%. So that's another 5% that's likely going to be in your trials group that's not on the dummy. So just consider that when you're getting worried about trying a trial out, if you get in an organized group, there's a lot more damage buffs in modern trials groups than what are present on this dummy, and you can easily obtain good numbers on a build without trials gear. You just have to know how to build. I have a series on building DPS. Just make sure you follow those steps in there. 6 pieces of medium armor with 1 piece of light. Velothi with either a back bar sword or Inferno staff with front bar daggers. Run the Thief Mundus stone, and you should be good to go on in most of those cases, as long as you are picking some quality gear sets. But that's going to do it for this video. Thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful, then please check out my channel for my other content. Go down into my created playlists and see if there's anything else of interest to you. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in another video. Bye.